talking about how to live a life in perspective, right? How to live life fully, but in perspective. Before we start, though, definitely check out below the Classy Climb School. Get courses on how to start your business from scratch, how to hustle up more income, how to design the American dream you love and would love to live, right? So back to this, okay? How to live life in perspective. So once you know your purpose and your why, and like, why am I here on earth, Lord? Why have you put me here? And how can I help others? How can I serve others? What are my strengths? Once you ask these really deep, pressing questions, you can kind of put your life in perspective. Like, am I still serving a purpose, right? And so some people say, well, I want family time. I want to make a lot of money. I want to do this. And then you look at their life, and some parts of their lives are a 10, and some parts of their lives are a 3. A lot of people are 10 on money and 3 and 2 and family, friends, relationships. You got to have balance there. What's all the money in the world if you have no one to share it with and no one to enjoy it with, right? Like you ever see movies where, some guy has made all this money, comes home to an empty house. That's not fulfilling of life, and that's not a true picture of life. Even, oh gosh, if I can think of his name, he wrote the book How to Be Rich, not wealthy. Not, he said How to Be Really Rich, right, is the name of the book. But I'm gonna put it down later if I can find it. I think it's Ferris. He basically was the magazine creator in London. He created a bunch of magazines. He, dominant. Felix, something. Felix is his name. It happens when you read a lot of books at one time, but his whole thing was like, you think you're rich? No, 2 to 10 million, that's nothing. That's poor. That's comfortably poor, right? And then he was like, you need to make like $100 million or something. It was like crazy numbers. And then, he's like, if it's a hooker or a plane or a boat, you rent those things. You don't buy those things, right? But then he died early. He died like 60, 65. And he said, I've spent I think he said spent 100 million on women and drugs and booze and cutting a fool. And guess what his legacy was at the end? He said, dang it, I wish I would have made more magazines, built a bigger company, and had a family. If I could go back, I would have had a family. Why? Because he realized life in perspective, all those women, all the boats, all the cars, all the stuff, what is it? If you have no one to share it with, no one to see you in your later years, no one to care about your existence, no one to pass it on to. And I know people say, well, I'm going to pass it on my nieces and my nephews and my this and my that. And we've seen billionaires do that. We've seen the Vanderbilts, we've seen all these people do that, and it doesn't work well. Because usually that child doesn't live with you. They haven't seen you 9 to 5. They just see you as this aunt or uncle that's making this marvelous dream, making this big, giant, gigantic future of a company. And they're not like your child who's going to see you daily and go, man, dad wasn't there, or mom wasn't there. They're out building and building and building. Or when I got older, I got to build beside them. That's why, regardless of Donald Trump having multiple children, and he's on some more children at the current time with his latest wife because she's so much younger, every one of his children gets to see him up close. And I have a respect for Ivana Trump, who is his daughter, who of course have seen this process of being married and then get married again and then get married again. But she gets to work beside her father, and she's probably one of his hardest working children if you ever hear his conversations. And that she's the child that's going to take over the business because she's the one who puts in the time. She's the one who puts in the work. She's the one who puts in the eyes to see the man. And so if you look at Donald Trump, even if you're saying, man, that guy is arrogant and has a bad attitude and all these things, life in perspective, he's had a great life. He's always had a wife. His kids are always by his side. He's worked well. He's lived well. So I think him and Ben Carlson are what people are seeing when they see that life in perspective. A lot of times people say, I wish I'm doing all this work for my kids. And then they get home with their kids and they don't do much with them, right? And I was looking at my neighborhood. I was walking around and I, get my daily walk on. And I saw this mom who was really, really overweight. And I saw her little girl who couldn't be more than 7. And she was really overweight too. And in my mind, as I'm not condemning her or judging her, but we can tell our kids all day, go outside and play. Go do stuff. Go read a book. Go do whatever. But what happens is they see what we do and they copy it. 9 out of 10 times you're going to become your parents unless you fight your butt hard to not be them. And so what are you showing your kids? What are you showing others? I've actually never seen that woman really walk around the neighborhood, or other than to get her mail, she just goes right in the house. So, I mean, she could have an exercise machine in her house. I don't know that. But in life and perspective, if she could show her daughter how to eat healthy, be healthy, she probably would. So, it's important to realize, at the end of the day, like, if you have a job, and I know people hate when I say this, but if you have a job and you see all these people standing in line for unemployment, why are you not grateful? Is it because you're not living your full purpose? Is it because you think you can do better? Well, if you think you could do better, go do better. Again, people who complain why they have spouses. I get it. Married couples complain about each other. You're being bothered with this other person. They get on your nerves. That makes sense. But there's so many people who are single. There's so many people who can't have children, or they didn't get married in time enough to have children, or they're not married. And here you are bemoaning your spouse. Does that make you feel good? I sincerely hope it doesn't make you feel good. Some people sometimes just have someone to kick around, and unfortunately it's their spouse. But that shouldn't be, you should feel bad about that, okay? Thinking of other things to put in perspective. Are you walking? Do you have all your limbs? There's so many people as you look around the country who are missing arms and legs, and accidents have happened, and they still put in perspective. I put up a video. I don't know if you guys saw it or not, but it was a guy driving an 18-wheeler, and he had no hands. He literally up to the elbow, this was gone. This was all gone, and he had on prosthetic limbs, and he was driving an 18-wheeler truck. And he says, I just got to go to work. It happened. I got to go to work. And I'm thinking, this guy with no hands is driving an 18-wheeler, making probably $70,000 to $100,000 a year. Now imagine what happened when he first lost his hands. People probably thought, oh, that poor man, he's never going to work again. What will he do with his life? And, just making him feel sorry for himself. But life in perspective, he was alive. I don't know the backstory of how he lost his hands, but he was alive. There's another story of a guy who has no arms, like no arms whatsoever. And he works in South Carolina at the NASCAR place, and he designs different things, with his feet. His feet are his fingers, and he drives a car, and just all of it. It's amazing to see when people lose a limb, they just go on and live life and go, I'm alive. I had a friend whose parents were married, and their dad had some freak accident, and he lost his vision. Like there was something like a tank blew up, but it scarred his face all up in here, and he lost his vision. And his mom said, I didn't divorce him because he lost his sight. I divorced him because he became bitter. I divorced him because he became an alcoholic and he became angry. Really what she was saying is he lost perspective, that instead of saying, hey, I'm alive, thank God I'm alive, and I'm here with my wife and my kids, and I can have a great life, it just became bitter and mean and hateful. So they had to leave. So putting your life in perspective is so important. And once you know your why, and once you see, like, some people are like, man, I want to do so much more. Hey, enjoy where you are. Enjoy where you are. Enjoy what you're doing right now. Enjoy the people you're around. It's the saddest thing I see when I go to a restaurant and everybody's got on their cell phone on a table. No one's talking to each other. That's depressing. There's nothing on your phone so entertaining that you're not in front of people. You're not being present. So this is Erica, Classic Climb Blog. It's not even a rant. It's just a statement. Put your life in perspective. Enjoy what you have. Be grateful. You guys have a great day.